While everybody else was focused on Ron DeSantis' handling of COVID-19 here in Florida, he just slashed the entire virtual education budget right under everybody's nose. Let's talk about it. So the other day, I did a video discussing that if you are trying to find some way to place blame on Ron DeSantis regarding COVID-19 and you are falling for the sensationalism of a virus that is seemingly unpredictable, a little bit volatile, you can't really figure out whether or not somewhere is going to experience a spike because in all actuality, tests aren't all that accurate. People are engaging still, even though they're trying their best to socially distance and wear masks, et cetera, et cetera. People still have to go to the grocery store. People still have to go to the gas station. People are now going back to work. And at the end of the day, there are more important things to worry about when it comes to Ron DeSantis than a spike that was experienced in a county that was opened by Democrats. And then the Democrats tried to blame Ron DeSantis for the Democrats' decision to open the counties like Palm Beach, like Miami-Dade, and like Broward. All three, the largest counties, but all three controlled by Democrats, in which Ron DeSantis empowered to decide whether or not it would be best for them to open. Being that I live in South Florida specifically, I've been keeping a pretty close eye on things because I understand how these narratives will get manipulated. Now, the reason I said that is because I know the media, I know politicians, I know Florida politicians at this point, and I know Republicans. And I said, while you all are focusing on this nonsense that isn't really all that much in Ron DeSantis' control, because if you were paying attention, you would have seen that California just had a record-setting spike as well, and this is actually a phenomenon we're seeing all over the country. You are ignoring, and probably we'll find out by the time it's too late, as usual, but I said you're ignoring the truly awful things that Ron DeSantis and a lot of politicians in Florida are guilty of. I said that, right? And I was called a closet Republican for saying this. I was told I love Ron DeSantis for saying this, for acknowledging the basic fact. And ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Because guess what? While you all were paying attention to COVID-19 and things that are outside of Ron DeSantis' control, he used that pen and that veto power that he is very much so in control of to completely slash the virtual education budget. That's right, for the school and the education that your kids need, given the fact that we still don't even know when they're going back to their public schools. Yeah, that just happened. It was actually covered by Politico. It says here that with a stroke of a veto pen, Governor Ron DeSantis wiped out the entire $29.4 million budget for a suite of online education services that have become critical to students and faculty during the COVID-19 outbreak. If you understand just how critical this is, then you know that it's become so big of an issue that they're going to have to actually just pass every student, because literally most of the impoverished children in this public school system around the entire state and really around the entire country can't afford any type of legitimate virtual services for education, because it requires a certain amount of processing power. It requires a certain amount of internet, a certain amount of memory for your computer, an extra iPad in the house, etc., etc. So you know how detrimental this is to the education of children, because even though they're going to be passed regardless, you don't want to remove your child from being able to engage in that classroom style environment, even though it's virtually, because you don't want your child to get out of rhythm, right? I know that's extremely important for a lot of parents. And it's also important to just the kids being able to transition back into a healthy environment next year as far as their education is concerned. So we couldn't afford it. Let's continue. The move, barring action before midnight Tuesday, will kill the complete Florida Plus program, an array of technology systems that faculty, staff, and students throughout Florida rely on. Never more so than now, in the midst of the pandemic that has amplified reliance on distance learning. The cuts include a database of online courses and an online library service that provides 17 million books to 1.3 million students, faculty, and staff members. At least 2,000 adult learners could become cut off from their scholarships, people. And school accreditation could even be at risk without the resources housed under the Complete Florida program, which are used by students at high schools, at state colleges, and at universities. Some 150 employees in Tallahassee, Gainesville, and Pensacola stand to lose their job now. But let's please keep complaining about COVID and the handling of COVID that he delegated to the Democrats to handle. Because clearly this whole situation has become political, right? So here, Democrats, if you don't think that you should open, then don't open. I feel like, as far as politics is concerned, that's a fair game. If you don't think that it's open, don't open. If you think it should be open, then open. But at the end of the day, one can't blame the other and the other can't blame the other. But when it comes to the situation of education being slashed, virtual education specifically, which once again, basically and almost exclusively impoverished people rely on, and clearly there are going to be jobs affected by this as well. All of a sudden, mum's the word. And although I appreciate that this author brought this to our attention, do you think it is a mere coincidence that we are learning about the slashing of a budget now? Do you think that it is mere coincidence that Democrats focused on something that was in their control, really? Once again, Broward County, Democrat. Miami-Dade, although it is Republican leaning, it is ran really by establishment Democrats. In Palm Beach County is ran by Democrats. They all had the choices of whether or not to stay closed. And they also had the choice, if they really wanted to put the screws to Ron DeSantis, to call out his desire to slash the education budget before this ever happened, so that people could have spoken out about it. Because guess what, y'all? Did y'all know Ron DeSantis is trending on Twitter right now? He's trending on Twitter. It says, Ron DeSantis kills Florida. That's what it says. Not a single tweet about what he's actually doing to kill Florida, at least as far as what has happened as a result of the coronavirus pandemic and in the quarantine that subsequently followed. I know how much this could impact some, because my nephew relied on very similar services in Virginia. And if he did not have access to those services, luckily my brother would be able to provide them. But my brother also was very clear that almost no one else can. Like it's basically, if you had to be financially secured through the military because it's Virginia, or you're a little bit older, you have your job. But let's keep it real. How many people still have their jobs now? Middle management has always been the most expendable position. So most kids will suffer at the hands of Ron DeSantis in something he did have exclusive authority over in this particular situation, because he used that pen once again as an executive to slash his budget, and yet we don't hear anything about it. Isn't that interesting? And do you know what? Do you know who this benefits more than anybody else? Charter schools. And do you know who is invested in the success of charter schools, not only in Florida, but all around the country? Not just Republicans. And especially in South Florida, Democrats are particularly partial towards charter schools. Do you think that the students that belong to charter schools, that have gotten iPads or other tablets, that have been given laptops by their schools, that have virtual programs set up by the school so that the students will always have access, whether or not they're actually in session, right? Charter schools don't have to worry about this type of stuff. Charter schools are fine. Hell, anything they get in addition to what they already get through private funding is usually just a bonus. So I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that Democrats spent the better part of last week, this weekend, and even this week talking about something that DeSantis had, once again, little to no control over. I mean, he could have been overly paternalistic. He could have said, no one can open. But I do understand the dynamics of Florida is such that y'all have to remember, we don't pay state taxes. So our economy is what allows us to do that. And if we don't got the economy for it, then we're going to end up having to pay state taxes and then nobody's happy. So I get that. I get it. That's a more nuanced topic. I understood why he delegated that to the Democrats to do in their, because once again, 3 largest cities, the counties that were the largest, which are Broward, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, they did actually open up later than everybody else, in case you did not know. They were not allowed to open up when everybody else opened, in case you didn't know. And even still, he said, but there's a caveat. If you choose to open as a official of that county, that is your choice. You do not have to, though. So that was delegated, which I feel like I don't like government officials as it is. So the more localized we can make our decisions, the better. That's just how I've always been. So I actually approve of that move. But then that is not okay when you, of course, act paternalistic when it comes to slashing a budget as important as virtual education, when it almost exclusively affects poor people. And this is the stuff that I said we need to be paying attention to. This is why DeSantis is problematic. Not because of something he has little to no control over, but because of the things he does have control over that he purposely chooses to either ignore or detrimentally affect. This is what we should be talking about. These are the issues that matter. But people keep wanting to fall for this sensationalism. And make no mistake about it, DeSantis has proven that if you know something, something bad that he has been doing, something bad that he is about to do, he will actually adjust, because public perception as a Florida governor can really get you ousted, because the state is purple. Even we've been back and forth between Democrats, as far as governors are concerned, Democrats, Republicans, quote unquote populists that are kind of in between. That's why he put together an environmental coalition. Ron DeSantis did, to deal with the red algae, because that was a primary focus and concern for not only Democrats but Republicans as well, because of how much our tourist industry was being affected by the red algae, and of course because of our way of life being affected by red algae. You can't just play the game. So in a situation like with Ron DeSantis, who is in the purple state, you can hold him accountable before he does things like that, but only if you know about it. And if both parties want something to happen, you will never know about it until after it already happens. We see this at the national level, and we see this at the local level. And we've just seen it again. And I urge you all, go check on Twitter right now. DeSantis is trending, and nobody gives a damn about the poor kids who just had their virtual education snatched from underneath them. Look at Google right now. Google Ron DeSantis slashes education. You can even put in Politico just to try to narrow down the search. The article that I just read to you won't even come up. Why? I thought it was everybody jump on DeSantis week. That's what I thought. So what happened? What happened? So it's everybody jump on DeSantis week until it's actually something that's in his control. Why? Because exactly what I've been telling you. These people don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about this state. They don't care about these cities. What they care about is November. But they also care about preserving the interests of their lobbyists, the people who actually fund them, The people who don't care about us, the people who actually pay these politicians to act against our interests. That is what's most important to them. And I've been telling you all, as a Miami resident, you all have been duped. I'm a South Florida resident. I've been keeping up with what's going on down here. I've been telling you all, yeah, COVID's a problem, but our problem that isn't really necessarily the spike. The problem is we don't have a way to detect how significant the spike is or is not, because we just had a story in Orlando where 25,000 tests were false and no national media covered it to any significant degree. And yet we skip that and go straight to, oh, there's a spike. And so because that made national news, guess what? DeSantis and local politicians had to react to that, not the inconsistent testing, not the false testing to figure out whether or not the spike was legitimate, how bad or how not bad it was. Because that's how politicians are. They react to national news. This won't even appear in the Google algorithms. DeSantis is trending on Twitter as we speak. Nothing about this. This is why I covered the story last week that I covered. Because I was like, what? This is what y'all deciding to talk about? This is what's in. Okay, so some tangential, it's so convoluted, that there isn't much that DeSantis can do, because there really isn't much that our country has been able to do. If I'm being honest, we don't even have good testing yet. We're working with what we got. But there is something that is in his, no, excuse me. There's a lot of things that are in his control. Education was one of them. And he just gave every poor kid in this state the middle finger while everybody is out here virtue signaling and standing on their moral high ground over some damn COVID-19 decisions that were literally made directly by local Democratic governments. Everything has become so politicized that we are literally seeing our kids suffer in silence. Think about that. The pandemic itself is extremely problematic, but it is not as problematic as how it is being discussed, how it is being covered, how the results of that pandemic are not at all being addressed. That is more egregious than a virus. The fact that now we have reached such a hyper politicized environment that we can see someone trend on Twitter and it have nothing to do with what they should actually be trending for. That's how bad this has gotten, because it's all about the next election. That's all. It's about keeping your office, keeping your title, keeping your job, no matter who gets sacrificed along the way. I would love to know what your thoughts are about this. Like this video, share this video, leave a comment below, but always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. If you like that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockman Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.